Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another episode of, forgot the name of the show for a minute, Corona Spotlight 2020. And today I am very, very excited because we're talking with a lady named Gabriella. I can't pronounce this last name. I am horrible with names. I so apologize. She will tell you how to pronounce her last name once I bring her on screen. But Gabriella, when I chatted with her about a week or so ago about coming onto the show and what she could offer people that are struggling with trying to make it through this coronavirus quarantine, isolation, all of that, during our conference, she offered to give me a session of what she offers so that I could talk about it a little bit more. And I got to tell you, the session itself was painless, right? But the differences that I noticed after the fact were surprising, astonishing, life changing, sleep changing. This woman has a process that is very simple and makes some very profound results in how you feel and how your body acts. So, without going too far into that, to give her the opportunity to talk with it about it herself. Here she is now, Gabriella. Hey, Gabriella, how are you? I'm going to
Hi,
go
I'm
change
good.
these names. Sorry about that. So please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am a health practitioner. I live in Massachusetts right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I started out as a computer programmer.
Really, computer
Yes,
programmer?
computer program.
I would never have guessed
So
that based on, yeah, what you're doing now for sure.
yeah, it's definitely quite the change. I was very successful with that, and I worked with statisticians and pathologists
Uh huh.
for about 15 years. So as a computer programmer, I tend to have a little bit of difficulty expressing myself sometimes, but I do the best I can, and I'm working through that.
That makes sense. And no worries, we can go at your speed and at your comfort. Not a problem at all. Okay?
Sure, sounds good.
Awesome. All right, great. So let me begin by asking you a couple of questions here. First and foremost, as somebody who was a computer programmer, how did you fall into healing work?
Well, here's the deal. I started having some health concerns myself.
Uh huh.
And I was in my early 30s. I had just had my second son. And I I had postpartum depression, and I was starting to have a bunch of little relatively minor symptoms that were bothersome, and they were getting worse. So I had the depression, I had achy joints, I had Raynaud's syndrome, which where your fingers turn purple if they're
Oh.
at all cold,
Mm-hmm.
and just tiredness and insomnia and all these things. So I went to the doctor, and I had my list, and I read through the list, and she said, that's too many to talk about today. Which ones would you like to prioritize? And, I was really hoping that she would have looked at my list and said, oh, I see a connection between those things. They're all related to whatever,
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like they were all connected. And she wasn't willing or able or something, to look at that. That's not what doctors are really trained to do.
Right.
So went through the list, and, do you want meds for that? Well, no, not really. I didn't I didn't want meds. I just wanted to know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I started researching myself, because as a computer programmer, what do? You plan out problems, and when there's a bug in the code, you have to find it. So I was good at finding things and doing research. And so I started, especially with insomnia, when I couldn't sleep, I would be on the internet trying to find what is in common between my symptoms.
Right.
And eventually I found a website in Australia that was about food intolerances. And they had a really neat chart, and every one of my symptoms was under the category of gluten.
Really?
Yes. So I was like, I knew there was something in common. And I stopped eating gluten, and which is not easy, by the way.
Right.
Very strict. And I just got better. All my symptoms, they went away.
That's good.
So I continued on with my life, and I started looking around me and noticing that my friends and my family, the people that were on medication, were having similar issues where I felt like there was a food intolerance there that they really did not need to be on the medication. All they needed to do was change their diet. So I enrolled in a health coaching program, because if the doctors can't help you, and nobody's there to help you, so health coaches, that was the place that I felt was helping people with natural, like, find out what's really going on and get them some help.
That's wonderful that you actually found somebody that could help. It wasn't, for me, it wasn't until I was 50 years old that I found doctors that I could actually trust. Yeah, and they were naturopaths. So I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes those are the ones that you can go to that will actually deal with what's causing the problem instead of dealing with the symptom of the problem to make the annoyance go away, but never actually solve the problem.
Right. So that was my second step, actually. After I finished the health coach program, which was a 1-year certification program, I enrolled in a naturopathy program, which I have completed all the courses. I am writing a paper, and I have to do case studies to finish that. So that's how far I've gotten on that. But outside the program, I have dug into the internet. There's so much good information on there. And I've learned about every alternative health modality that I could find, just to get an idea of, okay, what's out there and what can help people, because clearly conventional medicine isn't doing it for a lot of people.
Right. Yeah. No, it seems like, forgive my conspiracy theorist bent, it seems like conventional medicine is a system that is specifically set up to sell dinosaur byproducts profitably. Just my opinion.
Yeah, there's no money in natural things that God makes, so they have to stop us from using that and give us the chemicals.
Right.
I completely agree. That's where the money is, and it's a horrible system. It doesn't help. It doesn't remove the problems. It just covers them up.
Right. So, with an eye towards like the coronavirus, between you and me, a lot of naturopathy and not necessarily essential oils and stuff like that, but it's set up for preventative, right? But is there anybody that feels like they've got symptoms can do to strengthen their immune system in the present, so that maybe they avoid the worst of it or bypass it as much as possible?
Right. There is. And homeopathy is a very, very interesting method of healing. And thankfully, CVS is actually starting to carry some homeopathic products. And I was so excited when I first saw them, because they're amazing. And there's a remedy for the flu that I believe would be helpful in most cases. And it's a really long name, and I just happened to have have it on my desk.
Okay,
So that's what it,
Oscillococcinum. Okay,
yeah.
and I know that's wrong. I would have to take 2 or 3. And I'm really good with languages. I can't believe this. Which reminds me, would you please pronounce your full name for me?
Oh yes, Gabriella Michaliszyn.
Michaliszyn. I should have talked to you about that before. I'm so sorry. I mean no disrespect
That's
whatsoever.
fine. Yeah, it's Ukrainian. If anyone's out there is wondering.
It's very nice. It's
Thank
very
you.
nice. I come from Michigan near a town called Hamtramck, and it is a Polish enclave. Many people from there work in the auto industry. So I grew up with a lot of people with that SZY combination in their name.
Okay. Yes.
And it always scares me because I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce it right. So,
Right.
again, thank you for your generosity with that. But let's go back
Mhm.
to the homeopathy. That one product that you just showed, people can get that over the counter at CVS right now.
Yes, it should be on the shelves.
Okay. And how exactly, what does that provide for? What is that? How does that help? What is it ish?
So homeopathy is an interesting modality because it's it works with the theory that if you take a very diluted amount of something that's bad for you, now this is highly diluted,
Mm-hmm.
your body will react to it
Mm-hmm.
because your body senses, oh no, this bad thing is coming into my body. I have to. So it creates a reaction.
Antibodies.
And whether it's antibodies or just sending white blood cells, just whatever it is, different things have, there's a bunch of homeopathic products out there and they all have different reactions, cause different reactions.
Gotcha.
And then when the body doesn't see more of that substance, it just created something that was for defense. And that substance that the body created is then used for whatever else is actually the problem.
Gotcha.
So now you have all this stuff and the body's like, where can I use this? I just made all this stuff. And so it does different things, and it's amazing, and it's an old practice, so there's been a lot of research, and there's a lot of information on different homeopathic products. Another thing that has been shown to be useful that I've heard about is vitamin C, just regular vitamin C. Not get a good quality one so your body can absorb it and use it, but vitamin C is amazing for combating flu-like illnesses and keeping our immune system up. And vitamin A and vitamin D3, if you live in Massachusetts, where we're just barely getting the sun, this week.
Yeah.
Vitamin D3 is amazing. It's absolutely critical for your immune system's health.
Okay, good. So bump up the vitamin A, bump up the vitamin C, bump up the D3 if you can. And I know they have supplements for D3, and I know nothing beats being out there in the sunlight and having your skin actually create vitamin D for your body out of sunlight.
Right.
But are the supplements for D3 worth it? What is there to look
Absolutely.
for there?
We just, I wouldn't go with the store brand, but whatever you can get. If it's, I think honestly D3, as long as it's not, D2, if it says D3 on it, it will be beneficial. Okay. We have to rely on that over the winter months here because it's, we don't see the sun for a week, and it's down at 4, and so it's critical for both mood, obviously. You get to seasonal depression, that's part of it, and the light is secondary, or depending on who it is, but immune health. You want to keep that D3 up.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember growing up in Michigan, my mom used to have a UV light that
Mm-hmm.
she would lay in her
Yep.
bed and watch TV in the evenings with this UV light over her head, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was tanning. And that's what she. I was like 3. I'm like, what's that? She's like, it's my tanning light. Don't worry about it. Okay, great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, I hear that you developed your own healing method, and I presume that is the method that you used on me last week, so I can definitely
Yes.
speak to
Yes.
its effectiveness. Thank you very much. I have not woken
Sure.
up with a night sweat all week since we
Oh,
talked.
great.
Yeah, so I
Great
mean,
to hear.
that's a huge, huge impact for me. Um, any, the frequency of the hot flashes that I'd been having went way, way down, and so did the intensity of them. So
Okay.
like 0.1% of what I was experiencing before. So I just want to say that before we even get into how did you develop this, because it's so simple and yet, yeah, so impactful.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. It is. So through my studies of all the other natural healing methods that I could find, there were 3 things that I put together to create healing prompt therapy.
Okay.
The first is muscle testing. It goes by a few different names: muscle testing, muscle response testing, applied kinesiology. It is a way to get information from the subconscious. A lot of chiropractors use it. I guess one source that I read says about 30% of them use it. Now, they don't use it for everybody, but a lot of them use it at least for part of their practice, and they find out what supplements that people would benefit people, or what allergies / food intolerances they might have, things like that.
I recall a number of years ago, went to a chiropractor and I was fighting with my mainstream doctor because I had hypothyroid. And they put me on Armour thyroid. And then I came back 3 months later to be tested. They tested me. They said I didn't need it anymore, so they took me off it. So 3 months later, I come back in with the same symptoms, and they test me, and they say I need it. So every time they tested me when I had this in my system, they said I didn't need it anymore and pulled me off of it. And I finally got fed up with my doctor and said, look, I can't afford $300 in tests every 3 months to fight with you about having something that obviously is working for my body. I went next door to the chiropractor. She tested me on bovine ovary supplements, and it was a hit. And from there on, that's all I used. That's all I needed. So, yeah, it can be very accurate what your body says, and responds with kinesiology or muscle testing. It's very accurate what your body actually does need, and it will tell you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our bodies are in charge of our health. We take for granted what goes on. We cut if a paper. There's a lot that happens to get that skin healed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, even for something as small
all
as a
kinds of
paper
things
cut.
happen. Yeah. You break a bone, it heals. It's like it's crazy, right? Our bodies are awesome and just so complex. The complexity is crazy. You have to get all these different nutrients to the right places, or else things like our heart wouldn't beat right. And so why not ask your body what it needs?
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so that's part of it, is the muscle
That's
testing
the
and
first
finding
part.
out what your body is actually asking for. And then what?
Mm-hmm.
Once you have, and how do you know what questions to ask it?
Well, how do you know? It takes a lot of practice. Now, that's the complex part behind the scenes. So I trained a couple of people in how to do this, and they come to me with the more complex things, but they can do the basics and quite a bit depending on who it is.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple things to keep in mind is that the subconscious is very literal, so that can get you in trouble.
Yeah, I've noticed not much of a sense of humor or appreciation for sarcasm.
Right. Well, certainly not. But, things like if you ask a man if he's pregnant, you might get a yes. Because the actual, excuse me, the literal definition of pregnant is expecting. So if he's expecting a raise or a job or, something, then yes, he's expecting. He's pregnant. So it takes some care, it's and practice and being deliberate about what you're asking. But you can certainly do things like hold a supplement in your hand and say, is it optimal for me to take this supplement? That's pretty clear and specific. Mm-hmm. And then you can muscle test that and get an answer for yourself from your body.
Excellent.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. So it takes quite a bit of time and learning and practice to know what questions to ask. Muscle testing will give you the accurate answers from the subconscious about what the body actually needs. And then what's the process? What's the next step?
So through muscle testing, I work to get to the root cause of the problem. Now, the one I started with was my food intolerance, my gluten intolerance, and I had done a lot of research figuring out that the MTHFR gene, which I did have tested through a naturopath, I had a mutation in that gene, mm-hmm. and that was likely what caused the gluten intolerance. So that is part of the methylation pathway. So if your body can't methylate nutrients, then you can't use them and they can build up and become toxic and cause all kinds of symptoms. So that was so I knew the actual process that was broken, mm-hmm. that needed to be fixed. So that's the step that needs to be done. You have to find out what's actually really at the root of the problem. And that's what I do. I've been doing that for 5+ years now, and just like finding out what causes people's problems, so that now I have a knowledge of what to ask based on what I've found in the past. So once you find out, then the next step would be getting that information to the body. Mm-hmm. Which brings me to the second part of how I figured this out. And that's, I found a modality that gets information to the subconscious. Now they use it, it's called Psych K. They used it to get affirmations, to internalize affirmations quickly, mm-hmm. which is a great use for it. But I saw them getting information to the subconscious. And I know that's the same subconscious that's in charge of our health. Mm-hmm. It's the same subconscious that's giving me answers about what it needs. So now I don't just get information from the subconscious, I can give information to the subconscious.
That's groundbreaking.
And it is groundbreaking. And it's amazing. What I've found is that the body is awesome at healing itself. But we have so much chronic disease because it doesn't troubleshoot well.
Who does?
Right. So who do you want to troubleshoot something? You want a computer programmer to troubleshoot.
There you go. See, now this is as perfect as it can be.
There you go. That's me.
That's perfect. Oh my gosh. And,
yeah.
just as an aside, I've always looked at the human body as an organic computer. You know, to a certain, with the analogy of defragging your brain and getting putting all the pieces back so you can grab them when necessary, type of thing, right? So it just kind
Interesting.
of fits
Yeah.
in. It just kind of fits in with that. So yeah, natural logic would have a computer programmer figuring out this entire process. So how'd you do it?
Mhm. Well, I started out with my gluten intolerance, and the third piece that of information that I got was I watched a YouTube video about a scientist who basically explained how genes are not set. They're not unchangeable. Like we always think, oh, it's genetic, I can't do anything about it, you know. And so my gluten intolerance was genetic.
Okay.
And so I had felt like, okay, I'm stuck with that part of it. I just have to work around it by avoiding gluten. And I did that for 5+ years. And when I found that out, I said, you know, so can I change my genes? Muscle tendon, yes. Can I change the MTHFR gene? Yes. And can I use the Psych-K method to ask for that? And I got yes. So I worked on what the wording was going to be for the communication to the subconscious, and it's a request. Basically, I would like my MTHFR gene to be fully functioning, and I did another similar one with the methylation pathway because those were my problems.
Mm-hmm.
So right after I did it, I asked, can I have gluten? And that was my no. My test for automatically no, because for muscle testing, you want to test to make sure it's working, and you want something that's always going to be a no. So can I have gluten was always my no. And it switched to a yes after I did that. So I needed to double check my test. I had to find another no answer to make sure that the muscle testing was working, and it was. And I had been very sensitive to gluten, and I started being able to eat gluten without any symptoms right after that.
Wow.
So
that's
so
miraculous. I mean, that's literally a shift in perception that causes something that previously was impossible to actually happen as reality.
Right.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So how long ago was that, and you've been able to eat gluten without symptoms ever since?
Right. I have.
That's amazing.
And that was probably about 6 years ago now.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Awesome. So I presume that in that past 6 years, you've been working with others and helping other people with their stuff, like you helped me. Do you have any case studies that you could share with us? Some interesting things that we would find kind of like astounding?
Sure. I have a couple of them. The first one is similar a little bit to gluten. My friend's daughter was about 2 at the time, and maybe she was 3. She had a bunch of food allergies. So she had been tested allergic to corn and gluten and dairy and peanuts. And the pets were symptomatic. When she was around someone with peanuts, so if she smelled them, she would get sick to her stomach. So not a very concerning peanut allergy. And I worked with her for a session to get rid of her food allergies. And the next time she went to the allergist and got tested, which was not too long after that. She had no allergies.
Wow.
And that was one of my early clients, and she still has no allergies.
That's incredible. What other ones do you have?
So I have a couple of clients who had Crohn's disease, and I say had because they are both off their medication and not having symptoms, and one of them recently got a clean colonoscopy, and they said, well, everything looks perfect and no inflammation.
Wow. I'm sorry, that just kind of stopped my mind, because I know I have a friend, well, an acquaintance, somebody that I worked with that died of Crohn's disease, and I thought it was pretty much a terminal death sentence, that eventually you're gonna die out of that. And she actually has a clean bill of health from a mainstream physician saying, "Yep, it was here, now it's not." Correct?
Yes.
That's miraculous. That is amazing. All right, tell us some more.
Okay, let's see. So I have had clients that have come to me with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Probably like 70% of them are completely cancer-free.
Awesome. Now, for the 30% that you're not able to keep from going further, do you think it's that you were invited in too late, or was it just some sort of agreement that individual had with life?
There are different kinds of cancer, and I haven't figured them all out yet. So I haven't gotten to the root of some of them.
Gotcha.
The ones that I've gotten to the root of, I mean, I've seen some clients once, and then I had one person, it was kind of funny. He had gone to his doctor, and they told him that his cancer was back. And then he had a session with me, and I gave him the healing prompt therapy, and we tested using muscle testing for what he should take. And then he got a call back from his doctor saying, actually, we looked again and you're fine. It's not back.
Now, was that a second test after he'd seen you? Or did the doctor just call him out and go, we re-looked at the first test and we were wrong?
I'm not exactly sure, because I saw him once, and I found out through my friend. But I've had plenty of other ones that I'm closer to. I just find it hilarious when I had another client who the doctor had told him, you have early stage Alzheimer's, or actually Parkinson's. You have early stage Parkinson's. And then he saw me for a session, and then he went to get a second opinion. And that doctor was like, why the heck did he tell you that?
Nice.
I don't have that.
Awesome. So there you are, out there ruining doctors' reputations single-handedly.
Right.
Those liars. Just kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, who is it that you work best with? What's your ideal type of person as a client?
Well, the people that have been drawn to me are the people that are intuitive and frustrated with how things are, basically. I can work with anybody. I'm willing to work with anybody. The people that come to me are either friends of people who have seen results, or they're people who are sick of being on medication for their symptoms and sick of the pain and sick of not getting any answers. So I've worked a lot of cases where there's no cure. Those have been my clients, and we've gotten progress and we've gotten healing,
Wonderful.
in those situations. So, yeah.
Now, what's your vision for the future for healing prompt therapy? I mean, what are you going to do with? Because I can see that you've developed it. You're still in the process of developing it even further. What's the big vision for you?
So my plan is to start training people, and it is such a simple method and complex method. So there's different levels of healing prompt therapy that I'm going to be showing the world how to do. If you're a mom, you want to know how to deal with pathogens, colds and flus and whatever. You want to know how to deal with injuries, which this actually does pretty well as well.
Okay.
It helps if you help guide your body through the injury. It's amazing how fast you can recover from things. And let's see what else. I think those are the two main things for parents of younger children to be able to know, just the home first aid stuff and how to keep your immune system up.
Gotcha.
Things like that.
Awesome.
And then the next level, I want to have a bunch of practitioners out there doing this for the world so that people can get healed at the root, so that we don't have this epidemic of sickness and being people living on medication that has side effects and that dulls your thinking. And I want a society that's healthy and sharp and strong and upbeat, because a lot of the medications even cause depression. The pain causes depression. There's so much out there that
as an aside from that, I was reading something a couple of weeks ago that they had done this study in Europe and found that now you know what the trade name of this is, I'm sure of it, so don't give it away just yet. But they were testing and they showed that paracetamol reduces empathy in people. And it's one of the leading brands of over-the-counter headache medication, pain relievers, right?
Okay, yeah.
Tylenol, I think it is. It's sold under the name Tylenol. So basically what the article was saying is that this pain reliever dulled people's sense of empathy. So when you have millions of people using this pain reliever daily, we lose our sense to care about our neighbors and the people around us. We become very, mine is the most important, who cares about you? I don't care about how you feel about things, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm like, it just kind of, that's one of those things where you go, oh my gosh, what is the medication that I'm taking? What are the side effects? What is it really doing to me? How is it cutting me off from my connection with other humanity that keeps me well? And how does that contribute to my further illness? Wow. Mind-blowing stuff. So for all of you listeners who are interested to receive a treatment from Gabriella, please follow her on Facebook and Instagram at Alive Health Solutions. She's also on the web, same website, alivehealthsolutions.com. And you'll definitely want to reach out to her if you are a practitioner who's looking to add another tool to your toolbox. Because I'll give you a testimonial right here, right now. I was mind blown by the impact that short treatment had on me and the difference that it's made for my life since then. Because if there's anything that will ruin my day real fast, it's waking up multiple times during the night in a puddle of sweat. And that has not happened once since I talked to Gabriella. So if you want to add this tool to your toolbox and have people gushing about you the way I'm gushing about her right now, you need to reach out to her. You need to be one of those new practitioners that she's going to send out into the world to make life better for all of us. So thank you, Gabriella, for being here with me today and chatting with us about what you've developed and what you have to offer. Do you have some final words of wisdom for our listeners before we take this back to our Friday in the world?
Sure. I will give you a prompt for healing a pathogen. So that includes viruses, bacteria, things like that. I would like that pathogen cleanup pathways. Let me start over. I would like my pathogen cleanup pathways to be fully functioning. And if you want to take that statement and meditate on it periodically, if you start feeling bad at all, you want to make sure your body is prioritizing getting rid of the pathogen.
Excellent. And we will put that as a quote in the comments underneath this video, so people have that they can meditate on it and get back to you as far as any impacts that it's had for them.
That'd be great.
Awesome. Thank you again, Gabriella. You have a wonderful weekend, and take care.
All right. Stay healthy.
When you open yourself up to actual energy work, makes that recovery progress so much faster. That recovery is possible. You do not have to live as a victim until your last days. You have unbelievable strength, and I know that because you're still here. Do you want to create something completely unrecognizable with your life?